Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out, once again joined by heavyweight expert, esteemed trainer Don Charles. And we're reviewing rather a different dynamic this week. Last week, obviously, we saw Dillian Whyte get shockingly knocked out by Alexander Povetkin. This week's heavyweight main event has gone more to script, I think it's fair to say. Daniel Dubois getting the job done in, easy fashion, it's fair to say, against a substitute opponent in Ricardo Snijders, who looked, not at the races from the very beginning, in fairness.
Yeah, I have to second that opinion. Obviously the young man got the job done, like expected to. The opposition could be questioned, and that's my only concern going forward of the fight Daniel's got pending with Joe Joyce. When you're going in against such oppositions, it could come back to bite you on the arse when it really matters.
Yeah,
That's my only concern.
Does he learn anything from that? I mean, you're a trainer, you've worked with a lot of heavyweights. Guy comes in, short notice, not much to offer, significantly smaller as well. Does he learn anything from it? Is it even a confidence builder?
Yeah, it's not about him learning anything from that. It's in his defense, Daniel's defense. Since the lockdown, that was his first outing. So just to dust off the cobwebs, that's the exercise, I would say, that the purpose of that particular fight.
I suppose Joe Joyce wouldn't really get anything from it either in terms of learning anything new about Dubois that he hasn't seen before. It was so short, ended early in the second round after, 3 knockdowns in the first. What more can he see about Dubois that he didn't already know before?
No, there wasn't an awful lot to see there, except for Dubois did what he had to do, a professional job, clinically. The guy was there to be, he was pleading to be hit and to be gotten out of there, and he obliged.
He looked nervous early on, Snijders. Like from the start, he looked like he knew what was coming to him. And with some fighters, they take that as a bit of a catalyst and throw caution to the wind. He didn't. He backed off and kind of waited for the axe to fall.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, it must be a daunting affair when you're being put in against such a young lion in the name of Daniel Dubois, and you watch the show reel. That's daunting enough. So, like I said, in my opinion, from what we just saw, is Snider was just basically trying to sustain as least damage to himself as possible, which is wise. It just came there to he didn't speak it, but his body language was of that. Please don't hurt me as much as you can, So listen, it was an exercise, like I said, to dust off the cobwebs, and that he couldn't read any more than that into it.
Given Dubois had a couple of one-sided victories since a very impressive win last year over Nathan Gorman, does that harm him going into the Joe Joyce fight, that he hasn't had that kind of iron sharpens iron tests going into a fight, which is going to be the hardest challenge of his career?
Most definitely. I mean, listen, that, like I said earlier on when we first started this conversation, that's the only thing that concerns me, the level of opposition that Daniel has faced in comparison to the level of opposition Joe Joyce has faced in his career, not just in the professional ranks. Prior to that, the amateur ranks. This guy, Joe Joyce, is an Olympian who, in my opinion, won gold and got denied of it,
Sure.
Which is quite sad. And then he went into the WSB series. He did very, very well in that. He beat a lot of credible, good fighters. He got a split decision loss to Usyk. He beat Djokovic, who's now been touted as one of the best heavyweights in the division. So what Joe has achieved, and of recent times, he beat Brian Jennings. He knocked out Bermane Stéphane, ex-WBC world champion, dispatched of him. It was almost like an exhibition bout, the way he dispatched of Stéphane. And, like I said, the level of opposition he's mixed with you can't even start to compare that with Daniel's opposition. The only namely two names, notable names, you're looking at Kevin Johnson and then Nathan Gorman. You know, in his resume, that's really the only standout names. And I think that's why, if I was asked to predict what will happen on that, I think all these experience that Joe has gotten over this young man. I mean, let's face it, Daniel's only 22 years old. And what he's achieved, I mean, it's remarkable, really, what he's achieved, you know, is remarkable. And the way he's so calm, so cool, yeah, quite ice cold, you know, which is the frightening part of it. It's almost like emotionless, you know. No, the kid is special, there's no doubt about it. But I think the Joe Joyce fight is probably a little bit too soon for Daniel, in my opinion. But this is heavyweight boxing, and the kid can punch.
What do you think about the weight gain in Dubois? He came in his heaviest ever weight on the scales, and he looks huge. I mean, it's not a fake number on the scales. He looks more muscular, more thick set than he's ever looked before. Is that going to help or harm him as he matures?
Well, the thing is, he's looking at a growing young man here. He still hasn't even got his man body yet, his man strength. Sorry, he's got his man body. Cosmetically, looks
Sure.
like he's a fully grown man. In fact, I saw Daniel. I first saw him when he was 17 years old. He came to my gym to spar with Derek Chisora, and from looking at him from the back, it's you're looking at a man. Then when he turns around, you see a baby face. Then only then would you realize he's only a young kid. You know, he's always had that type of body. I mean, he developed early, a bit like Mike Tyson. At 15 years old, Mike Tyson had a man's body.
Sure.
Daniel resembles that, and what you're seeing there is the natural growth of this young man. He's developing his body. Like I said, he hasn't even got his man's body yet. He's probably got his man's strength, but he doesn't. You know, when he reaches the age of 25, 26, that's when he's really going to man up. His body's going to have that strength of a man. So it's quite frightening if he keeps developing in that rate. And the rate is at the rate he's developing at the moment. It's quite daunting for his future oppositions.
A few weeks ago, we saw Frank Warren publicly approach Matchroom with a list of potential co-promotional fights, one of which was Daniel Dubois against Dillian Whyte. Since then, we've seen Whyte fall to Povetkin. We await the rematch of that. And we've seen Dubois go through the motions tonight. What do you make of that fight? Because if you feel it's a little bit too soon for Dubois to face Joyce, I'm assuming you probably feel it would be too soon for him to face Dillian Whyte, who's even more experienced as a pro.
Most definitely. I mean, I'd like to listen. Frank Warren's one of the, well, if not the best promoter with the experience he has. How many previous champions has he guided to? He knows what he's doing, Frank. And I'll be quite honest with you. I think he's just putting that out there. I don't, for one, think that he believes that could materialize in the near future. I don't believe that. Daniel's not. There's no rush, in my opinion. Let him keep developing. To mention him in the names, the likes to matching him against people like Dillian Whyte, I think that's a bridge too far at this point. So that's a promoter will do what a promoter does. He promotes, and that's what Frank's doing, in my opinion, in that instance.
And just before I let you go, what can Daniel Dubois and his team do in the gym between now and October 24th, when the Joyce fight is scheduled for, to fill in those experience gaps or knowledge gaps? Is it just top quality sparring, or is there more to it than that?
It entails a lot what you do to prepare for. You know your opponent, you know their strengths, you know their weaknesses. They'll go back to the gym and just employ some quality sparring partners, and keep tweaking, and keep working. Like I said, how to exploit Joe's weaknesses and recognize his strengths. And Joe Joyce's camp team will be doing exactly the same. I mean, they would have watched that tonight and probably be rubbing their hands and thinking, Daniel needs to be in a real fight, yeah, to prepare him for going into such big fights like the one he's got pending with Joe Joyce.
Great. Great stuff. Well, Don, it's always a pleasure to get your insight and expertise. I'm sure we'll be back again sometime soon
I
when the
look
next
forward
big
to it.
fight demands it. But yeah, really appreciate it tonight.
My pleasure. Speak
Take care.
soon.
Speak soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.